Local rapper and Grammy winner Lil Durk is being held behind bars in South Florida, charged in a murder for hire plot back in 2022.
The FBI says he was arrested while trying to flee the country.
Lil Durk is charged in a murder for hire scheme. We're working right now to get more details on this investigation, but we know the 32-year-old was arrested Thursday by U.S. Marshals in Florida and is being held in custody.
Durk Banks is charged in connection with an attack that killed a cousin of a rival rapper.
Lil Durk may have earned a fortune, including a $40 million deal with his label. Only the family, but he's now facing serious legal trouble that could cost him everything. Despite his legal team's best efforts, Durk is struggling not only to get out of jail, but also to clear his name in connection to a murder case. The trouble traces back to 2022, when Lil Pab, also known as Robinson, and a cousin of rapper Quando Rondo, was shot and killed at a gas station in Hollywood on August 19th. Quando Rondo was present during the shooting but survived. Like many violent incidents in the rap world, this one was suspected to be a planned attack. Authorities believe members of Durk's Only the Family label had a motive: retaliation for the murder of their own, King Von. On November 6, 2020, King Von was killed during a brawl outside an Atlanta nightclub involving Quando Rondo's crew. The fight escalated into gunfire, and it was Lil Tim who fired the fatal shot that took Von's life.
I think so, I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of like, by me getting shot, I kind of was like not in a full state of mind. It's like a lot of ringing going on in my ear, I guess, from all the gunshots.
Although Quando Rondo remained mostly silent after the fatal incident, he released a track titled End of Story, which many interpreted as a lyrical defense of the shooting, claiming self-defense. However, that claim likely meant little to Durk's camp. One of their own, King Von, had been killed, and some members of Durk's crew reportedly saw targeting Rondo as the ultimate retaliation. In October 2024, several affiliates of Only the Family were arrested in connection with a conspiracy to commit murder. Those arrested included Kayvon Grant, DeAndre Wilson, Keith Jones, David Lindsay, and Asa Houston. Among the names highlighted as co-conspirators was Durk Devontae Banks, better known as Lil Durk, who authorities believe orchestrated the hit. Though Durk wasn't the first to be taken into custody, his alleged role as the mastermind led to his eventual arrest. So what evidence did prosecutors have to support this claim? According to them, Durk's lyrics were key. They argued his music suggested he celebrated the money he'd earned from a revenge killing. One particular song, *Wonderful Wayne and Jackie, Boy*, drew their attention. In it, Durk raps, "Look on the news and see your son, you screaming," a line many associated with Quando Rondo, who was captured on footage screaming, "No," after his cousin Lil Pab was killed. However, Durk's legal team swiftly challenged this claim. They argued that timeline alone invalidated the prosecution's interpretation. The track was recorded months before Lil Pab's murder, meaning it couldn't possibly reference the shooting. As for the alleged sample of Rando's Scream Durks, lawyers clarified that it was never part of the official release. That version was a fan edit that went viral online, misleading many into thinking the song directly referenced the event.
His lawyers say prosecutors misled the grand jury by alleging Durk bragged about the attack in a song. They say that song was recorded 7 months before the killing, and they add that Durk has no connection to a modified version later posted on YouTube.
That should have been enough to clear Lil Durk. But as with most viral content, once a video circulates on social media, it's nearly impossible to stop the narrative. Still, Durk's legal team presented even more proof to discredit the song as valid evidence. The track had never been officially released, and Durk has been transparent about its production. He stated that neither he nor his engineers ever intended to include the Rondo audio sample fans had manipulated the track to create a misleading narrative that Durk was celebrating a murder. The government's case took a major blow by relying on a fan-edited song as their main piece of evidence. That track, essentially the only smoking gun, was what led to Durk's initial indictment after being presented to a grand jury. Without it, there wouldn't have been an indictment at all. With such questionable evidence, Durk's team had a solid argument for bond, but the government didn't back down. They pushed even harder with a second indictment. After the failure of the first grand jury hearing, they came back with new claims, this time using the alleged use of credit cards to fund his cruise travel to California as evidence of a coordinated hit. Prosecutors also argued that Durk posed a flight risk, claiming he might flee the country if released. They insisted he be detained without bond. In the rap community, it's well known how difficult it is to beat federal charges, and even Rondo has acknowledged the serious trouble Lil Durk now faces.
Them niggas who be having 40 years, who done did 40 years and they in prison, and you see them and they don't look like they did that time, you know why? Because they got their ass turned to a baby.
The feds may have pushed back, but Lil Durk didn't stay silent. He and his legal team fired back with a formal court filing titled Defendant Durk Banks' reply in support of his application for reconsideration of detention order. In essence, Durk was saying, "I don't belong behind bars." The centerpiece of their argument, the song lyrics used in the initial indictment, weren't strong enough to justify keeping him locked up, and the government clearly knew it. That's why those lyrics were dropped from the second indictment, greater than on December 12, 2024. This court held a detention hearing and ultimately ordered that Mr. Banks, aka Lil Durk, be detained based on two factors: danger and flight risk. Regarding danger, the court relied mainly on the first superseding indictment. As for flight risk, the court admitted this was a close call. The probation department found Mr. Banks was not a flight risk, but still recommended detention due to perceived dangerousness. In other words, the court didn't have hard evidence that Durk posed a risk of fleeing, but still chose to detain him because of a gut feeling that he was dangerous. Initially, Durk's legal team tried to poke holes in the use of song lyrics as evidence, assuming that would be enough to secure bond. But it wasn't. Their strategy has shifted. They're going directly after the claim that Durk is a danger to the community, a label they argue isn't supported by solid proof.
5 members of Durk's Only the Family group, also known as OTF, were indicted by a California grand jury this week on charges of conspiracy to commit murder for hire.
As the court filing continues, Lil Durk's legal team highlights a major shift in the case's dynamics. On May 1st, 2025, the government filed a second superseding indictment, which removed 2 of the most serious allegations from the previous indictment: that Mr. Banks' lyrics glorified the murder of Sava Robinson, aka Lil Pab, that Mr. Banks directed or facilitated a bounty payment for the murder. These omissions are no minor adjustments, they came after. Durk filed a motion to dismiss the indictment and requested reconsideration of his detention. In essence, the government's new indictment tacitly admitted that some of its previous claims lacked solid grounding. According to Durk's team, this effectively proves their central argument: the government misled both the grand jury and the court with flawed or exaggerated allegations. But the government, in its supplemental filing, tried to minimize these changes, calling them immaterial. Durk's lawyers hit back, arguing that these omissions are not only appropriate to consider, they're critical to the court's reassessment of whether he should be granted bond, with the key claims about lyrics and bounty payments now removed. What's left of the case, they argue. It's a weak and vague patchwork of unsupported allegations. This tees up the next critical section of their motion. Asterisk, asterisk, the weight of the evidence has changed since the initial detention order. Asterisk, asterisk, citing 18 U.S. Code, Section 3142. The document notes that courts must consider whether the remaining evidence is strong enough to justify holding someone pre-trial, or if release conditions can be crafted to ensure public safety and appearance. In court, with the song lyrics gone and the bounty claim scrapped, Durk's legal team argues that the government's case has significantly weakened. They emphasize that the edited lyrics shouldn't have been used as evidence in the first place. Still, they acknowledge some unresolved concerns. It's undisputed that Durk paid for flights for his OTP crew, and those same individuals carried out the murder. There's also surveillance footage of the group allegedly tailing Quando Rando in the hours before the shooting. These facts continue to cast a shadow over the case, but Durk's team insists they do not prove he orchestrated the hit, especially in the absence of the government's now abandoned core accusations. The takeaway from this part of the filing: the case against Lil Durk has lost its sharpest teeth. And with a robust bond package on the table, the court should reconsider whether continued detention is truly justified.
Durk is accused of paying 5 people to kill a rival in LA. Prosecutors say the plot was revenge for the murder of another Chicago rapper in 2020. The shooting that happened outside a popular LA shopping mall missed the alleged target, but killed his cousin.
What was once presented as a central piece of evidence, the lyrics that prosecutors claimed were a musical confession, has now been completely withdrawn by the government. In the legal world, that's not a small correction. It's a major concession. The lyrics weren't just background noise, they were used to tie Lil Durk directly to the murder, painting the picture that he celebrated or even admitted involvement through his music. This argument took up significant time during the original detention hearing by pulling paragraph 6 from the indictment. The government is essentially admitting that their original portrayal of those lyrics as incriminating doesn't hold up under legal scrutiny. And that's huge, because it directly weakens the case for keeping Lil Durk behind bars while he awaits trial. Durk's team rightly emphasizes that the removal isn't just cosmetic kit, substantially depreciates the weight of the allegations. In other words, if that evidence was enough to justify detaining him before, and it's now been retracted, the justification for detention no longer stands as strongly. So yes, while the case still contains some serious elements like the funded flights and surveillance, the most direct link prosecutors tried to make between Durk and the murder has now been walked back. That's the kind of change that shifts the balance toward reconsidering bond.